YouTube, this is CJ.
And Sarah.
It's a Wednesday, and that means it's time for another Keto
Conversation.
So let's get started. So we were contacted by the folks at Ground Therapy, and we had never heard of the term earthing or grounding before. We were sent a link, I believe, and it was to a video, and I had to have a password, and the video was, I'll let you...
The Earthing movie.
Yeah, the Earthing movie.
The Remarkable Science of Grounding. And this has already been shown at the International Film Festival and Sundance and won awards, but it has not been released to the general public yet until later this year.
And so we were sent the link. We took the time to watch it. As you grow a YouTube channel and it gets bigger and bigger, more and more people approach you about things and products and so on. And we've been pretty selective about who we work with. And so from our perspective, this is really just about, because in the Keto Conversation segments, we do a lot about science related to keto studies. And so that's what this is about as well. So if you haven't heard of the term earthing, part of the video is an interview with Clint Ober.
And he's actually the author of the book.
Right, he's the author of the book. And it's some very interesting science. It's something that's new to us, but when we watched the video, it actually made sense.
Well, and we were inspired enough to go ahead and purchase products and give it a test run for ourselves.
Yeah, we purchased products.
With our own money. We purchased
on our
completely
own.
individually.
They didn't ask us to purchase anything.
Nope.
It resonated with us.
There was something about the film that piqued our curiosity.
Yes.
And inspired us to go ahead and give it a try for ourselves.
Right. And so again, this is just trying to give you information about something that we've learned about, what you do with it. There'll be links in the video description, links to, the thing that I guess that we do like about this is, they've got some scientific medical studies that
I think it's 23 or 24 actual scientific studies.
So it's not just some dude coming to us saying, earthing and grounding is awesome. No. There's medical studies, and one of the authors of this book is also a cardiologist.
They have a bunch of physiologists.
Yeah.
Lots of people with a background in all different types of medicine. So it is scientifically sound. Yeah,
so what's that got to do with keto? So keto, again, as we kind of mentioned earlier, part of the benefits of keto is reducing inflammation in your body.
Because inflammation, now they have proven, is linked to almost every chronic illness and disease that we know of.
I'll try to find a shot of that big Time magazine.
The Time magazine. Article. So we're talking cancer, diabetes, heart disease, all of those.
All of it stems from inflammation. Right. So anyway, this, like I said, we were sent this link. We watched the movie. We went out. We purchased products on our own, and then we said, "Wow, okay." I started to notice a difference. I started sleeping better.
We used you as the initial guinea pig.
Yeah, I was the initial guinea pig.
Because you were having some shoulder pain.
Because I don't sleep well most nights, and I also have had issues with arthritis. And this year I was having really bad issues with both my shoulders. Actually, this one was getting to the point where I could barely lift it, and this one was starting to have pain.
And when you would lay on it, it would wake you and things like that.
So anyway, I was the guinea pig. We purchased the product, and we put it on the bed, and I went to sleep just like normal. Didn't have to do anything fancy. There's no snake oil, or I didn't have to jump up and down.
That's part of why we feel like this product is helpful for us. Is part of the reason is it's not cost prohibitive. It is available to the general public. There are things you can do for free. And then there are things you can purchase that still are not astronomically priced that fit into your lifestyle.
We've done both. We've done both. We've done the free methods. which is available to everybody. And
Yeah.
we've also we've actually, as Sarah mentioned, we've purchased things. And so this video, I want to make sure people know this. This is not about trying to get you to purchase anything.
Nope.
This is about giving you information on something that we've just been exposed to, and you can take it from there, and then you do whatever you need to do with it.
And if you are uncomfortable at all with affiliate links or anything like that, you are more than welcome to go to this company on your own and buy products through them, through their website.
Yeah.
You know, you can buy them off of Amazon. It is, you know, completely up to you. We appreciate you and thank you in advance if you choose to support our channel in that way. But once again, this is completely up to you, and we are just here to give you the information and let you know how it has benefited our personal circumstances.
So I think we've been doing this now for 3 weeks to almost a month, and it's gotten really cold here in the Pacific Northwest this past week. It's gotten really cold. When it got cold the first part of the month, that's when I started having the issues with my shoulders. And I'm not having any pain right now at all. Every once in a while I get a little twinge, but as you'll see from this interview with Mr. Ober, this is not a magic overnight pill. This is something that takes time. It's just
Effects
something
are cumulative.
Right.
Yes. Like with most health things,
Right.
just like the ketogenic diet, you'll notice some things right off the bat, but then as you continue to practice the diet, more things come to light.
Right. And so, again, this is not, in fact, when I laid down the first time on our grounding mat, I didn't feel any shock. I didn't feel any buzz. I didn't feel any heat. I didn't feel anything.
You didn't feel any magic.
I didn't feel any magic. There were no unicorns that were jumping over my bed. It was just laying on my bed and doing what I normally do. I did notice that I started sleeping better. I did notice that. But other than that,
and your pain started.
And the pain started to slowly go away.
After about a month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's been about a month. I think it got really cold here late September.
You haven't had the same pain that you had at the beginning of the month.
No. Well, I went to Vegas, and that was a different weather. But even there, when it got cold, I was feeling it. But it's really cold.
Really
now.
cold. Yes.
I mean, we're talking in the 20s at night this week, and like I said before, I was feeling it all the time. And I was getting to the point where I could sometimes hardly even lift this arm. So anyway, this is not a magic pill. This is about trying to give you information. There'll be links in the description. You can go do some of your own research. We'll put a link to the video along with the password. You can do that. And as Sarah mentioned, if you decide to purchase anything through our affiliate link, yes, we will get paid a little bit of money. We don't even know how much it is. Because again, that's not what it's really about.
It's about us sharing this information
right.
Because we do use the product, like we stated before, we purchased the product on our own and we have found benefit with the product, and that's why we wanted to talk to Mr. Ober.
Yeah.
He's a very interesting gentleman, and this is a very interesting concept. And this is not new science. I mean, our connection to the earth is from the beginning of time.
It's not like he discovered anything that's new.
He has brought it to light so that we understand why it can be of benefit, especially in the hustle and bustle times, the cortisol-filled times that we currently live in.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that's what this video will be about. I've tried to edit this video and cut it down. It was actually originally about an hour long. Now with this long introduction that we just did, it might be back to an hour.
Keep in mind, this is our first attempt at an interview. We still need to work on the sound. We still need to work on our picture quality. And the laptop that we currently own has the webcam in a bizarre spot, so we probably also need to invest in a webcam.
We look weird. He looks great.
Yep, Clint, he's awesome.
He looks great. He looks great. We look like Mom and Pa Kettle, like we have no idea what we're doing because we did not.
In our tiny kitchen.
So anyway, that's the video. We hope you enjoy it. We hope you enjoy the interview. It's one of those things where you can listen to it. The first part, he's kind of talking about how this kind of happened to him. Then kind of starts talking about the science as we start asking him questions. Because he can talk about this forever if you just let him. So we had to kind of move him along.
That's what happens when you get excited about something, especially something that you helped bring to light.
Yeah. So anyway, we hope you enjoy it, and I guess we want to hear about it. If you I go out there and have some.
We want to hear about experiences.
Some aha moments. If you already know about earthing or grounding, that's fine too. It's new to us, and it's something that we thought was valuable. Now, I will say this: the connection between earthing and keto is it really got to do with the inflammation.
Correct, because when you go in and if you read the book or watch the movie, it actually shows some of the 24 studies that they have done as far as taking actual MRIs of people's inflammatory systems. And then after they practice earthing for as little as, I think it was an hour, and then they redo the MRI, and you can actually physically see with the heat sensing that their inflammation has gone away in those areas. So that is what the connection between the ketogenic lifestyle and this type of practice is.
You don't have to do keto to have success with earthing or grounding, but that's where the kind of the connection,
as many ways as you can keep
that was kind of how they pitched it to us,
yes.
and actually after you look at the video, it kind of actually makes sense. So anyway, hope you enjoy it, and we will stop talking. Bye. We've never done this before, Clint, so.
In case you can't tell.
Okay, well, welcome. I'm kind of new at it myself, but
Yeah, we're gonna figure this out. So I think what we're gonna do is we'll do.
lose you.
We've got a child in the background sneezing.
Okay, no problem. No, I'm past that, fortunately, but
Yeah.
Cool.
We've got three girls. So, all right.
Well, the best thing to do is for you to ask questions and then along the way add more questions, but just kind of keep me on track.
I guess probably one of the foundation questions is, so grounding or earthing, which one how should we refer to it?
They're both the same term in electrical language.
Okay.
It can be used in the US. They use the word ground more than earthing, but throughout the rest of the world, they call it earthing rather than grounding. So it's kind of just gets used both ways.
Okay.
And it's
All right,
like
so they can be interchangeable. All right.
Yeah,
So
yes.
tell us kind of how this all got started.
I spent 30 years in my younger years. I'm 75 now, but I spent 30 years in the communications industry.
Okay.
And that's where, primarily in cable television, microwave, and satellite distribution, and broadcast distribution. So, but anyhow, in that industry, you have to ground everything to the earth. Everything has to be connected to the earth. And it's to maintain the electrical stability of anything that's connected to an electrical, for instance, like cable TV. You have wires up there in the wind. So there's static electricity will be created, and then there'll be lightning strikes, and all of these things sometimes will hit these wires and so on. So you have to ground every cable before it goes into the home so that lightning can't get into the home or affect the TV or blow a TV up. And otherwise you want to keep the static down so that you have perfect pictures. So you have good clean signal, good clean sound, good clean data, and so everything works well. But if it's not grounded, then you get a lot of noise and all kind of problems. So you just don't want them. So anyhow, if there's anything going wrong with the system, then the main thing is more ground. Check the ground, make sure everything's grounded properly. So I had that built into my background, but I retired from the cable industry or the television industry back 25 years ago.
Okay.
I had a major health disorder where I went to have a root canal done. And about a month later, I had developed a major abscess in my liver. And it took them a month to figure out what was really going wrong. And by the time they had figured it out, I was yellow and in an emergency room and couldn't even stand up. So anyhow, my organs were shutting down. And so they put me in a CAT scan and they figured out what was going on. They actually drained my liver of the abscess while I was still in the CAT scan.
Oh, wow.
That's how bad it was. And so the next morning, the doc came into the room. He said, "We have some good news and we have some not so good news." And so the good news was they had figured out what was causing the abscess. They said it obviously came from, they asked me, first of all, if I had been bitten. I said, no. They said, have you had any dental work done? I said, yes. And they said, well, when they cultured the bacteria, they found that it originated from the mouth.
Oh, okay.
And so anyhow, then the bad news was that it had destroyed the major lobe of my liver, and that I could get a new liver, but my age, because of my age and because of my health, but the problem was they didn't know if I had enough time. So they told me I needed to go home, get my act together, and just in case, get things in order. And about a week later, a young surgeon from Swedish Medical Center in Denver called and said they would like to do experimental surgery on it and see how much of it they could remove. And so they went in and cut out all of the bad part of the liver and removed it. And then I woke up a couple, 3 days later, and I felt I was, I didn't know. I had a secretary that had worked for me for many years. She was in the operating or in the ICU room, and she was leaning over, looking at me, and I opened my eyes and I looked at her and I said, "I didn't know that you had died." Meaning
Right.
I thought that I had died.
Right.
And it wasn't too long, the pain came back on, and I knew for sure that no, I'm still here. But anyhow, after that, I'm telling the story can kind of help you understand how I got into
That changed
this.
the course of what you thought was important then at that time in
Yes.
your life.
Yeah, at that time in my life, I said, because I almost died and I spent my whole life prior to that in the business world or accumulating
Right.
things like art and cars and everything, homes, all that kind of stuff. And when I survived that, I was home one day and I just kind of looked around the room and I noticed that everything outdoors, everything in my environment was more vibrant and more colorful. But at the same moment, I was looking around the home and I realized that, had I died, what would have happened to all of this stuff I had accumulated?
Sure.
And then I realized that, the kids would have taken what they wanted and the rest would have been given away. And I thought, and then I realized that, I never really owned any of this stuff anyway. I just acquired it and I spent my life taking care of it.
Sure.
So then that kind of led you on a self-discovery road trip, if you will, and you went
Yes.
visit other places and kind of found yourself.
Yep. What I did is I called the children, said, "Come and get whatever you want." The rest I kind of donated, gave away, did whatever. And I bought a small RV and I just went on a 4-year road trip. And I spent most of the time in national parks or nice county parks, like Pontiac, it's like Pontiac, Michigan has one of the best county parks in the United States of all places. But you find these wonderful places to spend time. And so my personal motive at that time was I didn't want to make my life about money. I didn't want to make my life about things. I really wanted to do something so that the next time I die, I can be happy with myself. Because I wasn't very happy when I was going through that experience.
Sure.
And I thought that if I died, then my life was just about nothing except being a good consumer. So, but anyhow, along the way, I ended up in Key Largo, Florida, down on the Bayside in my little RV. And one night I was out there kind of watching the manatee and watching the sunset. And I had this overwhelming thing come over me that, and I didn't know what it was, but I have kind of this earthy feeling anyway all the time. but I felt like nature or Earth was trying to tell me to just created a feeling. So I went in the bus that night of the RV and I wrote on a piece of paper, become an opposite charge. And to me, that meant, go out and poke people, go out and stir them up. And the other thing I wrote was status quo is the enemy. And I didn't really understand what that meant or why. But I had the urge to head back west. So I packed up the next couple of days and I took off and headed back to California. Got there, decided I didn't want to stay there. Went to back to Tucson. I think I'll try it there and didn't feel comfortable. So I drove up was going on my way to Flagstaff, Arizona. And along the way, it was getting late at night. So I stopped in this town called Sedona, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Next morning, I woke up and I looked out there and I said, I'm not leaving. This is like living in a national park. So anyhow, I did. I spent about 2 years there. And a lot of that time working with, not for money, just for a hobby, lighting the art galleries in town and making their pictures look better because most people don't know how to light things. And so anyhow, and then I had a computer that was in my office there and it would keep crashing all the time. And I realized there was static electricity. And so I went and I put a strip of copper across my desk, and then I connected it with a wire to a ground, and then I would touch it I would touch the computer. And these are the old computers, they didn't have ground back then. And so then that way it would stop glitching up and the static, wouldn't have problem with static electricity. So that was all great. So anyhow, I went outdoors after playing with that static electricity, and sitting on a bench in a tour bus. And I think they were a Japanese tourist tour. And there were shorter people and they all had these big white tennis shoes on. And it was so glaring and so obvious. And intuitively, I asked myself, I said, I wonder if there's a consequence, to everybody wearing these rubber-soled shoes. And I didn't know, but I knew that when I was young, we were always barefoot or we wore leather. So I didn't know. So that night, just out of curiosity, I went home and I got a voltmeter out and started playing with it. And I started measuring the voltage on my body, from the environmental electric fields and the static electricity. And I thought, wow, this is kind of, there's something here. So then I decided to ground myself. So I went to my bedroom because there was a lot of electric field stuff in my bedroom. So I went to the hardware store and bought a roll of metal duct tape, 2 or 3 inch wide metal duct tape like you put around heating stuff, and laid it across the bed and connected a alligator clip to it and a wire and threw it out the window. Threw a second wire out and connected it to the ground rod, and then took the wires outdoors and connected them to the ground rod. So anyhow, then when I would lay down, I would touch the voltmeter, and then when I'd lay down on the aluminum foil, then my voltage would go to 0. So I knew I was grounded. But anyhow, that night, I was playing with this meter and laying down, and all I realized was it was the next morning, and the voltage meter was laying down beside me. And I had evidently fallen asleep when I was playing, but normally for me to go to sleep, I had to take Advil.
Oh, I see.
Because you were in so much pain.
Yes, because I was a cowboy, spent a lot of time skiing, crazy stuff when you're kids and whatever. But I had surgery, broken bones. I've had everything you can imagine, blown out knees, all that. But anyhow, I fell asleep, and then so the next morning I got up and I said, wow, this is impressive. So I played with it for a couple more nights and similar type thing. And then I invited a couple of my friends. I said, you got to try this because you sleep better. And so I connected them up and with the same kind of rig I had. And then we measured it, made sure it was working. And then a couple of days later, one of the guys came to me and he said, do you think this could have any effect on arthritis? And I said, well, I don't think so. I think it just helps sleep. And so after that, I started doing tried to find research on the internet, or there wasn't very much.
Right.
This is back in 98, 99. I
Okay.
didn't have, not much bandwidth and not much.
Yeah, there was.
resources.
Dial up. Yeah.
So anyhow, that's, then I started tried to do research, but there was nothing in the literature. There was nothing anywhere. I mean, you ask a doctor, they think I was nuts. But so I went down to the University of Arizona, looked at trying to get somebody down there to help me. And there was nothing. The only thing we found is during surgery, you have to ground a body before you cut it.
No, I didn't know that.
Wow.
Before you open the skin because of static electricity.
Oh, well, did not know that.
Yeah, it can cause a cardio event.
Wow.
And so anyhow, played with it about a month longer and again, kept getting results, and the people I was grounding, everybody loved it. And so I went out to UCLA. I figured I'd go out there, and somebody out there had to know, because this world smart guys are, right? And I mean, I love them. I'm not knocking them, but anyhow, so I went out there and I talked to people in the sleep department first, because I wanted to do a sleep study and show the benefits of grounding. You know, they thought they said, you expect us to believe that somebody's going to put a nail in the ground, tie a wire around it, and go tie it around somebody's toe, and they're going to sleep better. And I said, well, similar, yes. And they just said, no, you're crazy, you're nuts. You go somewhere else. And but anyhow, a couple of the university students took an interest in it to help me. I paid them a lot of money. But anyhow, I can understand they had no working knowledge of electricity or ground.
Sure, you did.
Yeah, and I certainly had no knowledge whatsoever about biology.
Sure.
And I was just a cowboy asking a question. I made an observation, but I knew there was something here, and I knew it was significant. So I ended up taking a couple of these students, and I found a nurse, and we put together what they call an anecdotal study, where we grounded 60 people. 30 of them were actually grounded, 30 of them were not grounded, placebo type grounded.
It was 60 total?
Yeah, there were 60 total.
Okay.
So 30 of them had a dummy ground, and 30 of them had a live ground.
Okay.
So anyhow, we went out and grounded these people. And I mean, the nurse, they wrote about, a little study formula. And then the big problem we had was getting subjects, because the doctors wouldn't give us any. So I was sitting getting my haircut one day, and I heard a couple of ladies in the beauty salon talking about pain and sleep. And so I went up to the owner and I said, I'm doing a study, and I need to find, 60 people that have issues with pain or sleep, and more sleep than anything. And they said, honey, everybody's got sleep problems. How many people do you want? And so I went to a couple.
Young people have sleep issues nowadays.
Yes. So I went to a couple more beauty salons, and we ended up getting 60 people in Ventura, California. And so we did the study, and it was great. And when we got the results back, it was really, really interesting. A lot of people most everybody had improved sleep. A lot of people had improved, reduced pain. And then we had really wild reports, like some ladies younger ladies who had menstrual cramps during their cycle. They didn't experience the cramps. And other people had TMJ, and the TMJ subsided. And it was just kind of a lot of things. And so it really kind of perked our interest, but we didn't know what to do with it. After that, there's more stories that go with all of this, but it gets crazy if I keep going all night. But so anyhow, we ended up finding a retired anesthesiologist down in San Diego who took an interest in what I was doing. He said, I don't think what you're doing is, I don't believe what you're the results you're getting, but on the other hand, you have some evidence, so let's go do a study. So what he wanted to,
How many studies do you have so far, Clint?
we have 24 peer-reviewed published studies.
Okay, wow.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
24. Okay, that's good. Wow.
And,
We're
and
all
they,
about studies and peer
Science.
and science. We talk a lot about that related to keto.
yes, I'll brush on a few of them, but they're all listed on the earthinginstitute.net website.
Okay, we'll link to that.
Yeah, and they were published over a period of 20 years. 20 years.
Okay.
And I started when I was 54, and I'm now 75. And we're still we have one study left to publish. And then we're kind of turning it more over to the university type people.
Right. And you definitely saw a need for grounding therapy because we aren't exposed to the earth
Right.
now like maybe we once were. Like when I was a child, I did go barefoot a lot, but my children don't do that
They don't
nearly
go
as
barefoot
much
hardly at all.
as I did.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And
Well,
so that what led you to try and assist people in being able to ground themselves in situations that maybe they aren't as exposed to the earth?
Right. Well, what we found in the studies is, as we began to pile up the studies a little bit, but even in the early studies, the thing that we learned from some of our studies, that as soon as we would ground somebody, if they had hot burning pain, it would subside within 5-10 minutes. That means if they had an arthritic flare in the hand, we would take an electrode patch, put it in the hand, connect it to a ground wire, connect it to the earth, and the pain would just stop. I mean, it would literally subside. Now, you still had that dull pain, meaning don't hurt me.
So is it lowering inflammation then? Is that what is driving?
Yes. Yeah, that's where the story is headed.
Right. Because we're all about, practicing the lifestyle that we practice. A large percentage of it is the decrease in inflammation just for overall health and prevention of disease. And that is what you're doing as well.
There's only one thing that grounding really does, is it reduces inflammation in the body.
I think when we talked before, you said that if you're grounded, you can't have inflammation in the body.
Yeah, see, I mean, that's where my background in the electrical world comes into play. The reason we ground everything in the world that's electrical, like your computer's grounded, your refrigerator's grounded, anything that has a metal chassis is grounded. The reason you ground it is to prevent charge, or to prevent noise, to prevent electromagnetic interference.
So that is an appliance's form of inflammation. You're preventing that by grounding them.
Yes, so the human body is conductive. And so when the earth is negative, about 20 millivolts. And what that means is that there's a sea of electrons, and it's universal. So you put a ground rod on the earth, then anything you connect to that ground wire, whether it's from the house wiring or from a wire to a motor, anything, then what you're going to do is the free electrons from the earth are going to travel up the wire and hold the housing of that device at earth potential, meaning that electrons are going to create a negative surface charge on the body and in the body. And we know this from our studies. And so the point of it, the point of all the research, the point of everything was, the thing that kept us going is we learned that as soon as you ground somebody, it reduces pain. Now, this was back in 2001, in that time frame. And after we did our second study, this anesthesiologist that I was mentioned, he saw the results from our cortisol study, where before everybody's cortisol was all over the place, like spaghetti. But after they started sleeping grounded, everybody's cortisol synchronized into a perfect pattern.
Cortisol is related not just to illness, but also to like the accumulation of body fat around your organs and your midsection.
Yes. Yeah, so that is the story that, that is what we're trying to get to here is, so the cortisol, we know, so we know that grounding normalizes cortisol secretions. You have to have it low at midnight or you won't sleep well. If the only reason you can't sleep at night sometimes is because you have elevated cortisol. There's no other reason on earth, because sleep is autonomic. It's going to happen naturally. So, but if you have cortisol, when you have fight or flight, you're thinking about something or you have stress, then that's going to elevate your cortisol. That's going to interfere with your sleep.
Exactly.
And if you interfere with sleep, then all kinds of chaos begins after that. But also at 4 o'clock in the morning, we learned that what we did on our cortisol study is we measured cortisol every 4 hours for 24 hours and sent it to the lab. Then we grounded them for 6-8 weeks and went back and did the same thing over. So before, the spaghetti profiles were all over the place. And then afterwards, they all came into this nice, perfect pattern. And these people didn't know each other. They were in different parts of the county and all that kind of stuff. So we said, okay, so we learned 2 things. One, the earth, the ladies who had adrenal fatigue or low cortisol, their cortisol came up. And the ladies who had high anxiety, theirs came down. So they all went into this nice uniform.
Nice balancing.
Yeah, balance. So then, but anyhow, so after doing that study, we understood that it affects the hormones, but didn't know why. And then we said this pain issue, because everybody again was reporting reduction of pain. So a cardiologist by the name of Steven Sinatra had come to town for an event there in San Diego. And Dr. Gully drugged me over to meet with him. And the reason was because cardiologists look at the body from an electrical point of view.
Wow.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, I guess like EKGs,
Yes.
everything is tapped into electricity.
And so, but this was back in 2001, 2002. And anyhow, Stephen, we were telling him about how the grounding reduced the pain. And we even grounded him while he was there. And he said, Clint, he says, if you're affecting pain, he says, you got to research inflammation. Now, nobody had even heard of the word inflammation back in 2002.
Now it's everywhere. I mean, even like I think Time Magazine had a whole thing about it's the root of all disease, every disease.
Yes, that came 2 years after we met Stephen. And but anyhow, he said you have to be searching inflammation because pain is a byproduct of inflammation. Mm-hmm. You can't have pain unless there's inflammation.
Okay.
Because it's just, so if you ground something and they're putting the pain out, then you're affecting inflammation. You're not affecting the pain. The pain is a byproduct of that. So anyhow, then we started doing research and because nobody understood it. And inflammation to me was, if you look up in the literature, it's swelling and soreness, if you're spraining an ankle or whatever. So, but anyhow, I ran across one paper where they were talking about neutrophils. How neutrophils, if you have a damaged cell or a pathogen, the white blood cell, the immune system sends a white blood cell, neutrophil, over to that pathogen, which encapsulates it, and then it releases reactive oxygen. And these electrically charged reactive molecules will strip electrons from the cell, and that's how the body destroys pathogens and damaged cells. And so as soon as I heard the word reactive, then I knew that that's an electrical term, meaning there's an electron imbalance. And that's what makes it hot or makes it reactive. So it can go steal an electron. So learning that, then I realized cowboy logic that, well, if pain is a result of inflammation is a result of neutrophils oxidizing healthy tissue, meaning there's not enough ground in the body, not enough redox potential to reduce the remaining radicals from an immune response, then that's these neutrophils are stealing electrons from healthy cells, causing, oxidizing healthy cells, so the immune system sends more neutrophil. So it's a chain reaction. It's kind of like burning a log. So that's why they call it oxidative stress. It's like a fire, and that's the word inflammation. Body inflame, body on fire. So anyhow, then cowboy logic was simple. I said, well, what I'm doing is the free electrons on the earth is like picking up a cup of water and laying it, throwing it on a fire. So
That's not enough.
So we're picking up a cup of electrons and throwing them on the end of the body. And so those free electrons absorb or neutralize the excess radicals and prevent them from damaging healthy cells. So to make this, so then you have to go back in, again, cowboy logic, back to the shoes. Back in 1960, that's when we invented the plastics, the primary plastics that we wear on shoes, shoe soles, and carpets and flooring. And before then, we were all barefoot, or we all wore leather sole shoes. And you rarely wore a leather shoe unless it was to school or church or a special event. And if it rained, you had to take them off and carry them because the water would ruin them.
They're getting that stuff right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyhow, then I went back and I started looking at, the only thing that the CDC had record on at that time that was an inflammation-related health disorder was diabetes. So I went and tracked diabetes from the late 50s on up through 210. And so we saw this curve that was just going exponential like this. And then we looked at the growth of rubber-soled shoes, which started in the 60s, same curve. And so they paralleled each other. Then eventually we laid, autism, lupus, MS, cancer, all of these modern inflammation-related health disorders. Anything you can put in Google, put in a disease and add the word inflammation, you'll find papers that they're all connected to inflammation. So in 2004, when that article came out from the guys at Rutger back in Boston, Mass, they said, you don't have cancer, you don't have lupus, you don't have MS, you don't have any of these diseases. What you have is chronic inflammation. Your immune system is compromised, and these health disorders are manifesting. Will manifest based on your genetics or your lifestyle or your environment, but it's the underlying inflammation that is the cause of them, because if you didn't have the inflammation, those diseases couldn't manifest. And so that's when I thought, well, okay, if grounding reduces inflammation and inflammation is the cause of all these health disorders, then I said, there's something really big going on here. And that was a long time ago, 2004. And so I've been, doggedly pursuing this whole thing ever since. But so anyhow, we came to terms with the shoes being the what happened in 1960, which caused this curve in the inflammation. And everybody has inflammation today at some level or another. 40% of the population can be diagnosed with diabetes. It's just endless. And then the autism, it's 1 in 50 now. It was 1 in 10,000 when I started 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I keep asking, when is it going to stop? When it's 1 in 2? Because that's where we're headed. And autism is an inflammation-related health disorder. That is.
You wanted to find a way to stop or assist in stopping inflammation, because you couldn't necessarily get everyone to stop wearing shoes, right?
No, not possible. That was when we were doing our studies. Nobody's going to take their shoes off. That's why we had to do we used electrodes, or we used pads or bed pads to ground people.
Could be grounded in pretty much any situation.
Yes.
If they were able to have things that assisted them in doing that, even while they were going about the rest of their life.
Yeah, the problem with the whole thing is it took us 50, 60 years from the time invented plastics and put them on our shoes and carpets, and everything in our environment now is plastic. So I think it's going to take us 60 years to undo that. And how we're going to undo it is you can put carbon or silver or particle, let's say carbon in the plastic on the soles of the shoes that make them conductive. The electrostatic discharge industry, they have grounded shoes. The ESG anti-static industries, they all use grounded shoes. But the public isn't aware of any of this yet. So it's really, everything I'm doing is about education. Say we have a problem. I don't have all the answers. The only thing we have is a handful of simple products that are byproducts of our research. When we were doing our research, we had to create ground planes, meaning pads and patches that people could sit on, sleep on, or lay on, stand on, so we could do the measurements for the studies. So anyhow, it's a mystery on how, I'm grounded, I'm 75 now. I am in the best health I've probably been in that I can remember. Maybe when I was like under 27. After that, my health was always challenged. But I have no pain, but I'm grounded. I sleep grounded. I am barefoot and I have a home where I have earthen tile. And I go barefoot as much as I can. And I have a mat at my desk, and if I stub a toe or something, I'll put a patch on it. But,
so being barefoot in your home, does that ground you, Clint? Or
it depends on the floor that you have in your home.
we have wood in our main living areas.
What part of the country do you live in?
We live in the Pacific Northwest. We live in Washington State.
Okay, so there's a lot of humidity there. So there will be a little bit of ground, because of the high humidity.
Okay.
But if you have carpet or covering or glass tile, baked tile, they're not conductive. So, but anyhow, taking your shoes off is a big thing even at home, because you don't build up all the static charges, because it's the rubber soles on your shoes and the carpets and things that cause that static electricity. And it's just as much part of the problem as anything. The main thing I try to get everybody to do is, if you have pain in your body, if you have any problem sleeping, then go outdoors and stand barefoot on the earth, or put your hands or your bare feet on the earth, or take a chair out and sit down and put your bare feet on the earth and leave them there for 30 minutes, or sit on the patio and just moisten it down. Now, your patio there, the concrete would have a pretty good humidity moisture in it. And just notice the change that occurs. First of all,
I was telling CJ this summer, this was before we'd ever heard of grounding or, heard about you. I would take my daughters to the park, and it was summertime, and I would take my chair out there and I would sit down, and I would, first of all, I would walk across the grass to get where we were going in my bare feet. And then I would sit down in my chair and put my feet in the grass and just, wriggle my toes and just kind of shove my foot in there. And the sense of euphoria that would come over me from doing that. And I just assumed that it was because it was a sunny day and I was out in the sunshine. Right. And I didn't realize how much connectedness to the earth you have. And, we went to Hawaii this summer, and walking on the beach barefoot, in the water, people do that and they think that they feel so euphoric because they're on vacation. And I'm sure part of that helps, but the fact that you're receiving this energy from the earth was a concept that instinctively I knew about, but didn't really understand why.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, so Clint, I was telling you that, can you talk to us a little bit about the video so we were introduced to you, someone reached out to us and they sent us a link to a video. Can you tell us about because that video was pretty powerful.
Yes.
Well, the video, it's called The Earthing Movie, and it was just released, I think, in February of this year to the film festival circuit. It won the Audience Choice Award in the Hollywood Film Festival that dances with films.
Oh, wow.
And so that was a big deal. And but anyhow, so we're going to release it sometime this fall. But what that movie is, it's very authentic. There's nothing staged in it. It's real world stuff. And it's kind of a history of, what we've been talking about, but it has scientists, doctors, researchers, and several people whose health is significantly compromised, and their stories. And I think one of the key stories is Richard Koch, he was the gentleman that had 10 years with the Environmental Health Agency and 30 years at the FDA. He grounded his mother, got good results, then he did
That was amazing. Yeah.
But then he did a little research, and here's his 92-year-old mother starting to play.
She's playing tennis, and she's just killing it.
And now she's 75, and he still wants to go out there and help us do something, but there's not much you can do, it's just education. But anyhow, his story and his mother's story, but his statement when he said that this is the most important health whatever that has come across.
Yeah. Or rediscovery, I guess.
In his entire career. And this is pretty good for somebody from the FDA. So, but that's one of the key things. And that's very authentic. We didn't ask him to participate. He wanted to participate and tell that story. And then the school teachers, the kids, referring to with the kids with autism and so on. Yes. And then the abilities group, the people who had,
Well, and there are celebrities and athletes that practice grounding.
Yeah, we have all it's just a good, well-rounded body of evidence. Yeah. So if you watch this movie, you're going to get up and go outdoors and take your shoes off.
Well, we did that.
I'm sure our neighbors were like, it's like 10 o'clock at night and we're out there walking around and they're probably like, what's going on?
Yeah, she's out there in her bathrobe and we're out walking around in our front yard.
But then right after that, we just immediately went on and bought, mats for the bed.
Right.
And CJ started first, and then I got jealous and wanted one too. So then we got one for me.
But everybody who watches that movie gets up and goes outdoors and stands barefoot on the earth.
Yeah, it makes you definitely want to do that. And I work the graveyard shift. So it's important for me to keep my cortisol levels, as stable as I can. And if I can make sure that my sleep is on point, it really helps.
So Clint, after we saw the movie, as Sarah mentioned, we went out and just purchased some items.
Right.
And we had never met you, we heard you through the video, but immediately I started sleeping better. And I don't sleep well at all. I started noticeably sleeping a lot better.
Yeah. And you're prone to arthritis.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I've noticed that's actually been getting better as well.
And we've only been doing this for maybe 3 weeks, a month.
Yeah, about a month.
Right. Yeah.
We're still new into it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. The number one reason people don't sleep well is because of pain. Mm-hmm. Meaning they have inflammation in their body.
Even if you don't realize you're in pain, sometimes it's not until you lie down and you're trying to get comfortable that you realize I'm hurting somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. You adapt and you adapt and you adapt, and sometimes you don't know, you can't recognize it anymore. But the first thing that happens is it slowly drains the inflammation from your body. Then the immune system can go back to work, restoring health, rather than fighting the inflammation.
So are the effects cumulative? Will it continue to make you feel better and better and better, or how does that work?
Yes. I'm 75 now, and I've been grounded for 20 years. When I started grounding, I felt great. I had more energy. all of those things. But I had lung issues and I had joints. And so if I would not ground and then I would go to the grocery store and I'd have to keep my knee up on the cart so I could scoot down the aisle. That's how much pain I had. But it took maybe, I would say 3 or 4 years for that to totally get to the point where all of a sudden it was gone, totally gone.
Right, because if you've been inflamed for most of your life, then
Yes.
it is going to take a while to undo that damage.
Yeah, what it is it's kind of like you sleep grounded for 8 hours, but then you spend 16 hours not grounded and working and doing all those things, creating inflammation. And the 8 hours sometimes isn't enough to compensate and keep your life.
So you have additional products that people can use, like the patching kit, and you also have things for like desks where you can keep yourself grounded during your work day. Say if you work at a computer or whatever, it will ground you being on, or your feet, correct?
Yeah, these are base products. The mat that goes on the sleep mat, put it on your mattress, put your sheet over it, go to sleep. And it doesn't take any work, and you don't have to, there's no compliance.
It takes more work getting it on the bed than you got.
After you get it on the bed, it's fine. It's easy.
Yeah, there's no compliance. You just do what you normally do, go to sleep.
Right.
And then, so that was the main thing we were concerned about. How do you ground people? Because they're moving around, they're doing all these things. Nobody stays in one place. The only time they do is during sleep. So anyhow, that's why we ended up, that was the primary product for us. Then the other product is that universal mat, which is like 14 inches wide and 40 inches long, 39 inches long. That you can put on if you're at the desk all day, you can put it on the keyboard, under the computer, use it for a mouse pad. So your hands are kind of grounded when you're playing with the computer.
And that's basically the only way that you're going to spend enough time grounded is to use a connection source indoors because of our lifestyle, because we aren't out in nature all the time anymore.
Right. And I mean, that universal mat, you can sit on it, you can put it on the floor and put your feet on it also.
I just, we just got some of the patches.
Yes.
And I started doing that when I edit videos. I will take my shoes off, put a patch on, and just take that time to be grounded because I'm maybe sitting there 2 or 3 hours. Grounded.
You can apply the patches to an area that you have specific pain. You don't need to do it just on your palms and on your feet.
Well, again, I'm a cowboy, and I always think cowboy. If I don't see it, I have to see it in nature, visualize everything in nature. How would we naturally be grounded? We'd be grounded with the feet and palms of our hands.
Yeah.
Right.
And the palms of your hands and the bottom of your feet have more nerves and pores, opening than any place else.
Because that's where they do like acupressure and that.
Yes. So when I do tests and seminars and stuff, I always ground people on whatever hand is closest to whatever issue they have anywhere in the body.
Oh, where pain is, okay.
That's good to know. Okay.
Yeah, so
right.
But what people want to do is they want to put the patch right where the pain is. And that's fine, it works. But for some reason, I think it's for, it's because sometimes people have issues where they need to be discreet. And but anyhow, I think it's intuition will tell you what to do. Your body will tell you what to do. Mm-hmm. But it's a powerful thing. There's the most important product we have is for acute injury or for people whose health is significantly compromised. The patch is number one.
And it's so simple. It's so funny how sometimes the simplest things are really what you need.
Yes.
And you're not doing any harm. There's no, you can only be doing good with this because there's no pain. It's not extremely cost prohibitive. It's available. There's no negatives to this.
Yeah, and when I put the patches on, it's not a big deal. I just do it and keep doing whatever you're doing.
Yeah, but it's profound.
We're actually trying to get in the habit of grounding ourselves when we're doing just regular tasks as much as we can.
To spend as much time during the day grounded rather than not.
Yeah, that's what I do. It's important. It's important. And the older you are, and if you have compromised health, it's important.
Well, and I started. I put a sleep mat on my 9-year-old daughter's bed. She has a genetic disorder and she has an optic glioma. And so, you know, in order to facilitate, and part of her disorder is sleep issues.
Yeah.
And she's had them since birth. So I have noticed an improvement in her sleep.
Oh, yeah.
And she's only been grounded for like 10 days so far.
Right.
So, yeah.
You know, I try to make this, think about it. If you think about the animals who live outdoors in the wild, cancer doesn't exist in the wild.
No.
They don't have cardiovascular disease. They don't have any of these 85 information-related health disorders that we all.
They're constantly grounded.
They're all constantly grounded.
Yeah.
But animals who live indoors with their owners, they all manifest the same health disorders as their own.
Great point. Great point.
That is very true.
So the point, the reason I bring that up is, the point is, if you can ground the body and put the fire out, what you're doing is the immune system is eating up the body. It's oxidizing healthy tissue. So it's busy cleaning up what it's trying to, it's causing and cleaning up. So it's a craziness. It's a crazy scenario. But anyhow, if you can stop the inflammation, then the immune system can go about healing or restoring the body. But what I have seen over 20 years of people who have gotten grounded, I can tell you beyond a doubt that if you can ground people, and food plays a big part of this, diet and exercise and water and breathing and so on. It's not one thing, it's all systemic. But if you can put the fire out, stop the inflammation, then the body only knows to do one thing: return itself to normal, to return the body to normal. 10 years ago, they didn't think cartilage regrew. I guarantee you, cartilage does regrow. You know, all these things that we thought, and I've seen people who had gnarled fingers from arthritis after a period of 3, 4, 5 years, those fingers start to straighten out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so the body is a self-healing mechanism, like you see in the animals in nature. So if your health is compromised in any way, then something in your environment, something you're doing, is interfering with your immune system's ability to maintain health. So first of all, you got to put the fire out. And then after you get the fire out, then you need proper sleep, you need proper food, you need enough exercise to keep the heart and everything. You don't need to go crazy. I don't see any cows and horses out there on treadmills. But I see them out there walking around and getting plenty of exercise.
Sure.
And but anyhow, it's a remarkable thing, and it's simple, but basically it's free. And I remember talking to some of the people at the NIH, National Institute of Health, in the early days, and they said, we understand what you're doing, and it's very important. But along the way here, you need to, before you go to the public, you need to have, because this is something that affects everybody. He said you have to have a no-cost solution, and then you have to have a low-cost solution. Well, the no-cost is very simple. Take your shoes off and get outdoors at least a hour a day.
So that's the no cost.
That's the no cost.
Yeah, that's the no cost. And the low cost is these simple products that we
Ground
have.
therapy products. Yes.
They're trying to keep the price, brought the quality way up so they'll last literally forever. And we've got the cost down so that it's really a commodity price that everybody can afford. And it's about, from here on now, it's about education and given the tools, the books or the movie or whatever. The most important thing, we put a lot of time in that movie, and the reason was because I'm 75 years old and I can't keep talking forever.
Right. You want to get the word out. Yes.
And people look to video information today. Not very many people are going to read a book.
I've been reading it, but I'm old school.
Good.
Yeah,
Took a lot.
I like pages still. I'm kind of a nerd.
She will read a book. I'll listen to an audio book.
Right. It took 3 years to write that book too. It took 3 years to make the movie. A lot of work goes into those things.
Labor and love.
So Clint, I guess we're gonna have to probably start wrapping up because she's got to get ready for work. But I guess what should people do if they want to get more information?
Well, I think you have a link, I think, to the movie.
Yes, we do.
So I would highly recommend, beyond anything else, go to the link, watch the movie.
That's
And
what did it for us.
Yes.
That's what got us on board.
Yeah.
Watching it.
And then if they're interested in the product and it fits into their budget and fits into their lifestyle, then I highly recommend that you go to the link that you have on your site and have them order the product via your link. And the token affiliate fee that they give, they should.
Yeah, but initially they should watch the movie.
Yes. Yeah, you got to watch. The most important thing is watch the movie, and then take the movie and share it with your friends and family.
Yeah.
Anybody who has, because this is, you can't argue with it. It's there's too much evidence, and it's heartfelt, and it's authentic. That's the only thing I have to say. It's authentic.
Yes.
And it's not about anybody getting rich, I can guarantee you.
No, you put a lot of your own money besides
Clint, I wanted to ask you about, so when you were getting all this research and doing all these things in the early years, you were funding a lot of all this stuff, weren't you?
Yeah, I retired after I had that surgery. I stopped. I just bowed out. Fortunately, I had been in an industry that created a little bit of money for me, but enough to get me by for about 15 years. Now I'm 5 years past that. I had no idea that I would be investing all of that. And I had no idea. I thought that I never looked at it about making money in the beginning. It was about, wow, this is pretty significant stuff.
Finding answers.
And I figured that, well, it was a good thing to do, and I had time, and it wasn't costing a whole lot of money then. But as time went on, the studies got bigger and the cost got bigger. But fortunately, we were able to sell enough product along the way to help generate some of the revenue. So it's been a self-funding thing to a degree. And I would say all of our money goes right back into doing what we're doing. Because at my age, you don't worry about wealth anymore. You worry about.
I think we can both agree that what we've spent, the value is there. I mean, because just from my experience of even just this whole sleeping better, that has been an issue for me for a long time.
Right.
But for me to actually be able to go to bed, fall asleep, and even if I have to get up and go right back to sleep,
that's what I've noticed.
That is a tremendous plus for me.
The ability to fall back to sleep very quickly is brand new for me.
There's another thing that we have lots of reports on is many people before grounding, they had to get up and go to the bathroom 2 or 3 times, 4 times a night.
Yeah.
And after they got grounded for a period of time, then once a night would be rare.
Yeah.
So and it's like, there's so many of these inflammation health problems. They show up, and we just take it for granted that we're supposed to be sick today.
Or you're getting older, and this is just what happens, or what have you.
But I'm living proof that it gets better if you stay grounded. Of course, I have to eat, but I stay at keto as much as I can. I don't get as much exercise as I would like. I need more, but again,
they all help each other.
Yes.
Stay that low inflammation.
Yeah, and that's what attracted us to this is, first of all, it made sense. But then we're not just about, yes, keto is a big part of our life.
Yes.
But we're also about keto long-term because of the health benefit. Right. This felt like it fit right into just the overall health benefits of a person.
Because it's the correlation of keeping your inflammation as low as possible in any way.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. I understand totally, and I'm totally on board. And I have to say this, that I've run across a lot of people with arthritis, And after I learned keto, and Dr. Stephen Gundry is my cardiologist, he says, Clint, he says, you got to cut out the breads. You got to cut out all this stuff. And I thought he was kidding at first, but I did. And then all of a sudden I noticed I felt better. My digestion was better. And then, so anyhow, I started running across people with arthritis. And I said, do you eat a lot of bread, and a lot of carbs? And of course they do. And I said, try cutting back on your carbs and your bread. Just stop eating bread for 10 days and notice what happens to your arthritis. Because it feeds it. And so between the grounding and stop eating those carbs or those breads, it's miraculous.
Yeah, if you can do everything that you can do, that's what we try.
Yeah, and so it's a combination, but the body is nature. Nature got us here. We were always grounded, and we always ate food that was close to live, or it wasn't processed and all these things. And so it's a wake-up call. Grounding's a wake-up call.
Well, we have definitely enjoyed visiting with you, Clint.
Well, same here. And if you ever have any questions, or any of your viewers or anybody have questions, let us know.
All
And
right.
I spend half my day answering questions and the other half talking about it. So, but it's a great life, and I'm really grateful that I get to do this.
Well, thank you for spending some time with us.
We really appreciate your patience with us, spending time with us.
Working out our technical difficulties.
Yeah, we really appreciate all of that. So,
these podcasts are fun. People enjoy them, and it's a good way to communicate, and It's authentic. It's authentic. I like it.
Yeah.
So, very good.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and be well. Stay grounded.
Stay grounded. Namaste. Thank you.
all right.
All right.
Thank you, Clint.
Bye,
Take care.
Clint.
Bye-bye.
You bet. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.